Welcome to Lead with Leann, your definitive guide for exceptional leadership and successful entrepreneurship, airing every week at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Central Time, exclusively on winwinwomen.tv. I am your host, Leann, and I am thrilled to be sharing this journey with you. Each week on Lead with Leann, you'll join me as we delve into the inspiring stories of established leaders and innovative entrepreneurs. We'll uncover just what it takes to build a brand from scratch, lead with authority and grace. We're going to talk a lot about grace today, I think, and turn business aspirations into tangible successes. Our show is not only about imparting knowledge, it's about creating a community. It's a space for us to laugh and learn and leap forward together in our quest for professional and personal growth. So whether you're embarking on a new entrepreneurial venture or looking to inject some fresh energy into an existing one, there will always be insights for you. So get ready for thought-provoking conversations, enlightening insights, actionable advice, and the support of a network that champions the win-win philosophy. Learn to lead with passion, purpose, and determination right here on Lead with Leann. Let's lead together. So today, are you ready? We are going to have some fun. I have with me, the wrong notes. So hold tight there. We will find these. It's always fun when you have fun, right? So Lauri Morse is a master health mentor who makes it fun and effortless for spirit-centered women, woohoo, to increase energy and improve health no matter their age. After practicing Chinese medicine for 30 years, she's seen proof that the way to truly heal is by harnessing the natural principles of life force and the elements, making it possible to bring a body, mind, and spirit into a high level alignment to feel good again and enjoy the life they love. She's gathered these secrets for decades from her private practice and online her Sacred Health Academy, which serves many. She is a best-selling author of 2 books on how, number 1, how to reverse heart disease naturally, and number 2, the art of returning to love, how to show stress the exit to heal, and is currently working on her 3rd book called Restoring the Divine Design. She loves hiking, gardening, dancing, wait for it, boogie boarding, reading, and spending time with family and friends. So welcome, Lauri. Are you there?
I am here. Thank you so much, Leann. I love what you're doing, by the way. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, and you're a podcaster too, so you understand it's some days are easier than others.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're all good.
But they're all good. They are indeed. So what did I miss in that introduction? Tell us more.
You didn't miss a thing. The only thing that I should have told you is that my 3rd book has now changed from the divine design to writing on a book about menopause for women. So
Okay,
it just needed to take a little bit of a 180, and it still includes bits of that divine design because it's coded in every cell of our being. But women are struggling in the perimenopause and postmenopausal journey. So that's what this book is now about.
and why
And
is
it's
that?
almost done.
Why are
Well, because why are they struggling? The body sort of turns itself inside out from being a fertile woman. And Chinese medicine can teach us why that is and what to do about it and how to cultivate more energy. One of the biggest, complaints, I guess, that women on that path have is that they don't have any energy, or they feel no motivation anymore, or their emotions are, chaotic. And so there's just ways of understanding through the model of Chinese medicine that's been around for thousands of years. I always think, oh, it never would have stood the test of time if it didn't have something to it, right? And I think the core part of it is this element of life force, which you mentioned. So I'd love to start with that, but I want to make sure you don't have any other questions from what I've said so far.
Well, so what I loved with this show is it really is transformed. Believe it or not, I'm coming up on my first year anniversary. Yay! In just a
Hmm.
couple of weeks. And when I started this journey, I thought it was going to be a particular way. I had it all laid out exactly how I was going to do each month. And it really ended up
Yeah.
transforming itself. I'm sure you've experienced similar things.
100%. Yeah.
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 And so,
I mean, that's kind of, no, I'm sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
no, go. So we've kind of transformed almost away from just talking about leadership and entrepreneurship to really talking about you, the entrepreneur. Who are you?
Mm.
How did you get here? What started your journey? And so I'd love to kind of transition to that. Like you've done 30 years of
Sure.
speech medicine. We talked earlier that we have an overlap there because I used to own a company that also promoted,
Yes.
what jokingly, but people really thought it was true 20 years ago, expensive pee
Yeah. Yeah.
with Chinese medicine.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of people have come around a long way, but you've been doing this for 30 years. So how did you get started
Yeah.
on this?
Before that, I was in corporate for like 10 years and it
Oh,
was sucking my soul dry. And so I kept, having this inquiry in my heart and asking at the time, I didn't call it the universe. I was just asking life, what is it I'm supposed to do? I wanted to wake up with passion like other people, like, artists and musicians and whatnot. And so I did all the work to sort of just ferret that out. And it ended up being around health. It's the same idea that you just said, which is you think it's going to be one thing and you have it all laid out, but then it actually has its own energy. It has its own way of unfolding. And I think that was probably the first time that life taught me how to follow those breadcrumbs, which I did, and they led to Chinese medicine. And I could I couldn't be happier. I mean, I had no idea what Chinese medicine was when I started, just questioning like, what can I do that I feel passionate about every day? I think that every human heart, every human soul wants to have that experience, whether it's through a job or a business or a family or they want to know, every human being wants to know that their soul and their heart is aligned with something that feels right to them. And it's going to be different for everybody. So, yeah. And so Chinese medicine ended up teaching me everything, about life force, which is energy, which I've since come to understand is are particles of light, because every single particle and wave of the universe is light. And that's also in every one of our cells, which is, we have it by the trillions, the numbers of cells. But even more sort of vast than that is that in every single cell, there are like trillions of atoms. And it's those atoms that are particles of light. And they carry blueprints for wholeness and health and creative expression and love and, abundance, right? Because we're all here to find our way to thrive, but it doesn't always seem that easy to find that, gold, so to speak, or the cheese through the maze of life that we get dropped into, which we could call the matrix. And then, sometimes it ends up being, hard to find our way. I remember in my 20s, I didn't really want to be here. I thought, what is the point? This is like a shit show, if I may say. And then what I realized is, okay, since I'm not going to take my own life, that would be a little dramatic. I had no plans on doing that, but it was hard for a while to wake up every day and be here. And I thought, okay, since this is going to be something that I have to like live into, expanding my soul and, discovering and growing and all of that, I need to make it fun. So this is where the fun piece comes in. So if I knew that if I didn't find ways to make it fun, it would be very hard for me to be happy and stick to this path of, natural growth, which we're all designed to do. So, that's where the fun part comes in. And then the grace part comes in because in our connection with life or source or, the life force, whatever words we want to put to that,
I use God.
yeah, I mean, any of those work, right? They all kind of mean the same thing. That it needs to be two things. It need that energy that we connect to, God, life, nature, spirit, whatever. It has to be exquisitely personal and universal. And we get guidance and we get shown, and we get information that drops into our heart, and that comes by grace. So
Mhm.
that's grace is quite important to me, because I feel that grace is a part of the feminine part of life. There's a masculine and a feminine face. That's the yin and the yang, or light and love, or the alpha and the omega, right? And they're never separate. They have to live in a co-creative dance with each other. We all have that in us. That grace has been, like a bridge between my
Mhm.
boots on the ground human self and my higher divine self.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting you talk about light, and in my faith journey, I believe, let there be light was the first commandment of
Yeah.
the creation of the multiple millions and billions of universes that exist. But we all started with
Yes.
that, that command, and that was it. Let there be light. And light is, in that case, everything, like you said, even to the
Yeah.
expansion of what it is today and everything that's in it. Yeah, it's a
Yeah. And
beautiful.
yet nobody teaches, even in religious or spiritual paths. I haven't run across too many teachings about summoning and receiving light and then directing it
Mm,
for healing, for business success, for relationship repair, all the things that we need to have a thriving life. It's actually light, and nobody really teaches us how to do that. And that has become one of my superpowers, because light has taught me how powerful it is,
hmm.
and what a personal medicine it is. And so I will never abandon it. And I'll talk about it until my dying day, because there's something really powerful in it.
Absolutely. And I do know people, many friends that do. I see it on Facebook and different things. Excuse me. We are doing some construction here, so
Oh yeah,
there's
it's
little
just getting little
particles.
particles in your.
Um,
Yeah, I got that.
but the where people will say, hey, pray for me, and people will say, sending light, sending love, sending light or love.
Hmm.
Those are common
Right,
phrases. But yeah, I would say that most
they
people
are.
they say that, but the reality is I think a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm praying for you." And did they? You know? Um,
Yeah, or
so
maybe they did, but I don't know, following the energy of light
mhm,
is different than a quick prayer. And I'm not berating quick prayers, long prayers, medium prayers. They're all good. They're all prayers.
right.
Um, but I think it's a cultivation, like any relationship we have. It's a cultivation of a relationship with light in every crack and crevice of our life, and then curating our life with light. And that's a whole nother level, beyond I'll send you light, or I'll send you a prayer.
Well, and there's an intentionality, I think, you know,
Yeah.
and there may be an intention behind praying for you, saying praying for you, but the actual doing, following through that intention, that's, a different level of
Yeah.
connection there as well,
Right. And we could also even, I 100% agree, Leann. And we could also consider what carries our prayer from where we are
Mhm.
to where we would like to send, a prayer to. It's light,
Mhm.
right?
Very possible. We have no idea,
And
but yeah,
well,
that's
that is what light has shown me. And
right.
so,
Exactly.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying it's worthy of, playing with it, right? And just
100%.
exploring and discovering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really do agree that, when people say, well, quantum physics is, in opposition of God, and I'm like, no, I'm pretty
Not
sure
really.
if, God created quantum physics, I'm sure there's a hierarchy here.
Yeah.
You
Agreed.
know,
I mean, it's so interesting what we do as human minds, because if everything is energy, and it
yeah.
is, and if every particle of energy is light, and it is,
Hmm.
then what's separate from what? There isn't anything separate from
Right.
anything else. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
then we have
absolutely.
to say, oh, okay, it's the human mind that wants to put things in
Oh, yeah.
categories, and yeah, boxing it, and this is, making exclusions and all of that kind of thing. So
And we're completely limited. Let's just face it. We do not have the
let's face it.
capacity to even begin. I
Exactly.
mean, I just read the other day, I'm reading a book by Stephen Covey's son, who's named
Okay.
Stephen Covey. And
Okay.
But it's about leadership and management, and they compare and contrast two. It was fascinating. The kind of a more structured, I'll tell you what to do type of management style versus the trust and inspire type of management
Mhm.
style. And that's the name of the book, Trust and Inspire. And
Okay.
anyway, in there, they talked about, as we've heard many times, I'm sure, how fast knowledge is doubling. Right now, they say
Yeah.
that knowledge is doubling at the speed of every 12 hours.
Okay.
12 hours.
That's intense. Yeah, 12 hours, right?
And so, um, we have no chance and nobody
Yeah.
has a chance at knowing everything anymore. Maybe AI, but but you know there's just so much out there, and we still only know a little tiny bit of what's to know, what exists.
Right.
We
Right.
don't know really what's on other planets or what's in other universes. We have ideas, but
Right.
believing that there is something that does know, it's something bigger than what we are is also, I think,
Exactly. And that we can lift our own mind and consciousness and even brain
Mhm.
into that divine mind or quantum mind or intelligent mind, whatever, intelligent
Mhm.
field, whatever words we want to put to that, and be in relationship with it in order to receive what's necessary for our life.
Yeah.
That's really what we, as individuals, that's what we want to be doing,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And in finding our paths, it's so important. Clearly, you can feel when you're on the wrong path. You felt it, when you were in the corporate
100%.
world. You're like, I'm not doing the right thing. I felt
Yeah.
it. Sometimes even when I was on a path that seemed right, when I
Hmm.
could justify why I was doing what I was doing or whatever else, I I could tell the difference. Excuse me.
Yeah, yeah. Like it ran its course, even though initially it might have been the right path, but then it maybe ran its course. Is that what you were maybe going to say?
Yeah, and sometimes
Something to
that
the
too.
effect?
Yes, exactly. Sometimes it
Yeah.
runs its course, and
Okay.
sometimes I think, quite frankly, people can just be obstinate enough to stay the path, stay the course, even knowing it's not the right thing. I did that for years and years, for sure.
Yeah.
Thinking, okay, well, but rationalizing it, justifying it, when in my soul, in my heart, I knew I was meant for a different path or a different thing, which I'm now
Yeah.
living out, which you're now living out, in our lives, which I think that there is kind of a code that we're given, a
Yes.
path, some people would call it a mission, a purpose, a path, a code,
Resonance, whatever
right.
word. Yeah. But
Yeah.
our heart does know, our heart and our soul. And what's that line? The short, the longest distance. I don't know. No, the shortest distance between is the path between our head and our heart, and yet it takes the longest to bridge that gap. Something like that.
That sounds about
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, our heart does know.
Hmm.
And anyway, so yeah, that's really part of what's going on right now. What did you say? You said something about like you were on that path and you knew it wasn't right, but then you didn't get yourself onto the next path yet. I think you are now.
Yeah.
But that push pull and that tug of war that we do, that's part of the journey,
Yeah.
right? Like that's part of what pulls us into that as long as we don't shut it down, it's okay to have that push pull, I think.
Well, it
Yeah.
definitely, there's a song I really enjoy. I was just listening to it this morning, and some of the words are, you can take a wrong turn and still end up where you're supposed to be. And,
Yeah. Yeah,
like people
exactly.
talk about having that GPS in us that, we can turn right and turn left, but eventually, we're going to wind our
Mhm.
way the direction we're supposed to go, one way or the other. I also do look at some of
Mhm.
the blocks that have been placed, like just absolute shutdowns, like, nope, I need your
Yeah.
attention this way now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that happens as well. It happened to me in 2019. Um, when we had to release a whole 26-year business. And the
Yeah.
next day it
Yeah.
shifted to what has become what I'm doing right now. And
Yes.
Um,
And the universe had that direction ready for you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and they just say too, things will keep showing up over and over and over again until you learn the lesson, of things
Yeah.
like things getting shut down. My YouTube channel got turned off 2 years ago, approximately now. It was a horrific event in my life at the time. I mean, I literally was sick 3 times that day over what I had
Wow.
lost. And yet, a couple
Yes,
weeks
yes.
ago, my Facebook got hacked. 12 years of memories, reels, messages,
Yeah.
connections, followers,
Yeah.
all the stuff. And while I'm
Mm-hmm.
still a little bit like, oh, sad,
Yeah.
but I'm not angry. I'm not sick. And,
Yeah.
where I've
Yeah. So
really
you,
realized it's 100 years from now, maybe probably less, nobody was going to care about it anyway.
yeah. Yeah. And that,
Yeah.
that is a thing. If you think about where you are now, and then 100 years from now, is this thing right now that seems so important going to matter? More
Yeah.
likely than not, it will not matter. But you know what does matter and what lasts forever and ever eternal is the love we give to ourselves, or the compassion or the forgiveness as we're going through hard things,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
But we have to go through hard things in order to practice that.
Yeah.
And most of us just want the hard thing to be over, like, hurry up, I want this to be done, get me out of this.
Yeah.
And that's probably my hardest sales job, if you will, when I'm working with women, is to just stop resisting and stop pushing it, the thing that they don't want to be there, pushing it away, and settle into that still point in our heart. And okay, it is a practice. If you don't have practice going into your heart, then I get it. But what else is there to do? You know, like, there's nothing more important than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that the thing I was listening to, they said not only, they're like, if you think you've been in the same relationship over and over and over again, you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You have,
And this is
because,
the thing.
we're still trying
Like,
to do
because we
things.
keep choosing and we keep attracting and we keep saying yes to and no to our past
Yeah.
until we bring it to light,
Hmm.
so that there can be a dissolution of the past, so that we're free and we can be in the present and have fresh possibilities all the time. Like,
Right.
that's what the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and that's a practice. It's okay if we don't get to flip a switch and have that all be perfect overnight. We do have to practice. That's part of the soul expanding aspect of being human and doing this kind of practice.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I can just think of so many instances in my life where things were, I swear this is true. Last Thursday, I was thinking about going to a car wash. I didn't, or well, I did end up going to the car wash. I decided not to. And the minute I made the decision not to go to the car wash, I swear that the stoplight went from green to red. No
Oh
yellow.
wow. Uh-huh. Yeah, I get it.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess I'll go through the car wash because I was going to be stopped anyway. So I may as well take a left and go through the car wash.
Go and get your car washed. Right, right.
And
Yeah.
I ended up having
Eh,
an amazing potentially life-changing conversation for not only me or the person I was talking to, but that conversation ended up getting related on a radio station. And who knows
Nice.
the
Wow.
impact? And none of that would have happened if I hadn't taken the left.
Exactly. And this is a perfect, in my view, perfect example of divine grace.
Yeah, exactly.
Just red light, turn left. And then
Yeah.
you followed, and this whole beautiful, you know, pocket of love opened up for who knows how many souls.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
again, divine grace and obedience is another way that you could look at it as well. The
Yeah.
following the path, following the calling. I say it over and over again, and I do mean it. I really wish that I could just live that way all the time. It's not, it's,
Yeah.
and realistically, I can,
Yes.
however, we set up things like responsibilities, obligations, even by choice, like things that I like to do.
Yeah.
Monday mornings, I lead a group, and Monday afternoon, I'm here to do a podcast. Those are choices. which inhibit
Yeah.
my ability to say, well, I just feel like laying in the sun because it's beautiful out, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically.
It does. And yet we get to bring divine love, divine grace, divine, whatever, the God, we get to bring, and hopefully most of us are practicing doing this, bring it with us, as us, through us to everything we do.
Yeah, 100%.
Like that actually is the objective in a human form, is to be that instrument and to be that vessel.
Yeah.
And of course we set it up so we forget and we get distracted with, things like YouTube and all the things. And it's like, oh, okay. I'm starting to really get how all that stuff can happen. And rather than me having an opinion or, railing against it, I'm just going to call that energy in and I'm going to ask for the highest outcome to happen, the best possible outcome. I try to see the best possible outcome because I think our imagination and our consciousness is a big player in all of this.
Yeah.
And then, let the energy of life flow through it and make it right and make it good. And
Yeah.
it's like, damn, that really works.
Yes,
Remembering
it
it
does.
is the key. Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. Wow. So was there like a moment when you just like the light switch, if you will, switched
Yeah.
for you? Tell me about it.
Well, I wouldn't say there was a moment, Leann, because I've been doing this practice,
Yeah.
inside of the playground of Chinese medicine. And then art showed up during my menopausal journey. And I really love the creative process because there's a whole healing aspect to it. And I got certified in intentional creativity. And I mean, I just kept building that. And part of me was like, oh, well, maybe that's the direct, we were talking about this a minute ago. Maybe that's the direction I'm supposed to go in. But I feel such a loyalty to Chinese medicine. I just couldn't abandon it. So I get to hold both with grace. Grace helps me because they're two very solid paths, right? And so there wasn't one moment. There was just a building of choices that when now in hindsight, I can look back and say it built and it built. And then there was a point where I crossed some threshold, but it wasn't like, the heavens opened up and I realized that was the moment I was crossing the threshold. But in hindsight, I can say, because of all that practice, I own I own an element of life and life force in my conscious awareness and in my choice making capacities that I didn't have 40 years ago.
Mm.
And it matters so much and it makes a difference. And I would tell anyone who's on any sort of a journey to themselves to just keep walking.
Yeah.
Because you'll get there. You are there already, but you'll get there, meaning you'll know it when you're now living it more as who you are.
So let's talk about your new book, and your kind of changed over to talk about menopause and perimenopause in women. So how does what
Yes.
we've just been talking about apply to that?
Well, it's such a good question because I I have felt in my own journey and witnessed it in millions of, not millions, hundreds that I've worked with, but then millions that I've been in contact with through online activities,
Mm-hmm.
that this is like a portal that opens up for women. And everything that has yet to be healed up until this point where, this portal opens, and I can always tell now, like, oh, the window is now open for this woman. She's entering menopause, or okay, now she's crossing the threshold from perimenopause to menopause,
Yeah.
and then to postmenopause. And this portal, I think it's all one big portal. It just has phases to it. Is a call. It's a call to our soul to release everything that is no longer serving, and to become consciously and intentionally aware of what fuels us, what nourishes us, what we need to say no to, what we need to say yes to from a heart perspective. And everything we've been talking about is what helps us do that, right? And so yeah, and menopause, I had this lovely plan, like we talked about, of this divine design, which I know I'll write that book someday. But I don't know, more than halfway through the book, it's like my higher presence said, nope, we're going to write a book on menopause. That's what's really important right now. And I was like, all right. And then it just dropped. I mean, it just like poured in, I could barely keep up with the pacing, through me on the typewriter keypad. But but it's good. It's really good. And I get now why this was the direction that needed to be taken.
Yeah, and you said you can tell when people are entering, transitioning, exiting. How? How can you?
Well, there's a it that will be in the book and it will be outlined very clearly. It's
Huh.
a lot to say, just in
Yeah.
our few minutes. But the first things that I start noticing is that a woman will like her PMS, her experience with her cycles and her PMS will feel more intense.
Mm,
And she won't think it's anything other than that's what's happening. Maybe her bleeding gets heavier, maybe she has different spacing between her cycles. And certainly like whatever PMS she had is more now intensified.
mm,
And then some of the other like earlier indicators are her shoulders might start bothering her, or maybe her hips. It's very weird when a woman's hormones start changing, not for every woman, but in a fair number of cases, her shoulders and hips will start um, feeling like, I don't either pain or achy or less mobility. I mean, it doesn't last, but it's a very distinct note that perimenopause is now happening.
Frozen
And then the
shoulder
menopause,
happens more in women and also
yeah,
in.
it doesn't have to be all the way to frozen shoulder, but any
Mhm.
sort of shoulder issue and frozen shoulder is definitely one of those things. So, yeah.
Which I'm suffering from right now. So it's lovely.
Oh,
Anyway, go
interesting.
ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when hormones start getting a little bit more erratic, it's very obvious. There's the hot flashing, whether it's at night or during the day. There's emotional instability. A woman doesn't recognize herself anymore. It's very nerve-wracking because it's like, where is myself? Like who, I don't even know who I am anymore. And there's maybe motivation changes or decreases. Energy levels tend to be really, noticeably less. Maybe she's trying all the right things from a nutritional standpoint, but she still can't lose weight, especially in the middle. Those are key, like central menopause issues. Sleep. I didn't sleep for 4 months. I'm 63 now, so this was all starting for me like 21 years ago.
Yeah.
And there was a time in my late 40s where I did not sleep one single night for 4 months. And I write about this in the book where I realized after trying everything and I was miserable and I would cry on the way to work. I mean, it's torture to not sleep, right? In addition to all the other things that are going on in the main show of menopause. Finally I realized, okay, and this is where Chinese medicine has helped me. It's like daytime is yang or masculine. Yang is the energy that gives us all of this ability to articulate and have activity and move and talk and all the things, right? At night we're supposed to be at rest, and that's when we restore, regenerate, and rejuvenate. And that's the yin time, and that's the feminine time. And I thought, what is this message for me? What is the messaging of this torture of not sleeping at night? It's feminine, it's yin. Oh, I need to start listening to the feminine face of God. And I called that in. Because I did not have a relationship with the feminine face of God. Most of us in the Western culture who have any relationship with God, it's masculine dominant, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's wrong or bad. It's just not balanced or harmonized.
Yeah.
So I spent years cultivating this relationship with Divine Mother, to just be blunt about it.
Mhm.
And I can tell you that she taught me so much. She continues to. I will never leave her side because she is, especially in a physical form. Here's an interesting thing is that we're matter, matter, and the root of that word is a Latin word, which is mater, mater, which is mother, right? And here we are on a planet that is Mother Earth. So cultivating a relationship with that part of life has taught me immeasurable things on how to be in flow, how to be balanced, how to be myself, and how to sleep and how
And
to
how to
move.
sleep.
Yeah. And how to move through menopause with grace. I mean, that's actually the title of the book. We've been talking about grace, moving through menopause with grace.
Yeah, beautiful.
How to, yeah. And how to have more energy. So there's something to this phase in life that calls women to the heart of life.
Beautiful. Wow, what a transition. That's so exciting. And I'm sure there will
Yeah.
be many, many, many people that benefit from what you're doing. So you
Well,
will,
that's my hope. Yeah.
yeah. So you will reach
Go
out
ahead.
then, and be promoting that, I'm sure, through podcasts
Yeah.
and others. I
Yes.
I can think of a few people I'd love to make an introduction for you to them,
Okay.
because they could
Awesome.
be
Thank you.
friends as well. So yay, that's wonderful. So
Yeah, it should be out in a couple of months.
okay, great. So summertime,
Hmm.
roughly. Yay.
Hmm.
So a
Roughly, give or
question
take.
that I like to ask, and I've been kind of looking through, um, you mentioned in your kind of your takeaways, but you mentioned that how to cultivate more energy. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So this is where the life force that we've been calling light is vital. Like calling that in, summoning it, receiving it. I think it's the easiest to visually imagine that it's like a waterfall that comes in through the top of our head because we can all imagine and visualize a waterfall. And the intention that this is your light or your life force from your higher self is enough, right? And but the key is remembering to do it and remembering to do it on the regular. And it's lovely to do it in the morning as a morning, ritual or setup, but it's also important to do it all throughout the day. So for those who are viewing this podcast, I drink a lot of tea, so I use the restroom a fair amount. So I just have set that up as an association. That's when I call in light. That's when I, initiate that waterfall again. So I have a gift for your listeners, which is
Oh,
a 5-part mini class. And it's exactly what we're talking about. It's the power of being grounded, the power of being connected and calling in that light, the power of being centered and present, the power of being embodied, and the power of purpose. And the part we haven't even touched on the power of being embodied because guidance comes from our internal guidance, which is in our cells, not just our head. Our
mm,
head only has a vision that is limited to our past.
mm,
And our embodied wisdom sees a much broader scope. It has a broader view of all the players and the parts and the needs and the way to make it unfold in the highest good, kind of like the stop sign or the stop light in the car wash, right?
great.
And when we follow that and we practice it, then our life starts unfolding in much more, I'm going to say the word magical because that is what the word that most people use to describe it, even though that's the way we're supposed to be living. So this 5-part class is just a simple way to get yourself sort of on in that foundational way. And even if you have, long-term experience with your spiritual path or your relationship with God, I find that this foundational brick is often forgotten because it's such a core basic. And so as we come back to it, it's just another level of connection that we forget that we have access to.
That's beautiful. So while we're there and you're offering this generous gift, thank you. Where can people find that, or how
You're
can they
welcome.
connect with you?
Yeah, the main place is a website, createtohealstudio.com. That 5-day, it's called an energy kickstart,
Mhm.
is on that page. And then I think you're going to have in the show notes a direct link to that as well, right?
Yep.
The
I
Sacred Health
will.
Academy 5-day kickstart.
Sacred.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sacredhealthacademy.com. Are you also on social medias that people can connect with you?
I am. Lauri Morse is the handle for Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And those are all on my website too. I'm not a TikTok person. And then I have a YouTube channel. Those are all available on the website.
Okay. Wonderful. So if you go
Yeah.
to the website, you can connect via social media.
You can
So
connect in for all of that. Yeah.
wonderful. So I'm going to invite anybody on the live stream here. If you'd like, come on over. We are still live and we will be live for a few more minutes here. Come on over to winwinwomen.tv. If you're watching the recording, remember you can come over to winwinwomen.tv anytime. We always have shows running, but specifically 2 p.m. Pacific time, come on over and you can join the show live every week. Or you can watch the replays as well. So scroll down, you can find this show, Lead with Leann, on winwinwomen.tv. Watch these replays, watch other replays, and so on and so forth. One question
And
that I
share
love to
them.
ask. Go ahead.
Yeah. No,
And
I just said and share them.
Yes,
Share them.
please. Yeah, share them with the people that need to hear these. You know,
Yeah.
she's talking about writing a book. It's eventually going to be published. So this is a great example of something you can share with women that you know might be struggling, might be needing what she's offering, even after the book comes out, or especially after when the book comes out, so that people can connect with and see what a lovely spirit we have here. And so,
Mm.
I'm going to ask one more question. I love asking this, but do you remember what you played when you were 8-ish years old?
Well, I was an outside girl, so I loved to roller skate and ride my bike. And um, I don't know, we played kickball, we played tetherball. It was all that sort of like outdoor, very physical, moving. And interestingly enough, we had these neighbors, and there was this patch of dirt between us. And the kid who lived next door was a guy, a kid boy. And we carved this racetrack for Mattel cars in that dirt, and we would spend hours playing with these cars in, in this little grooved, track thing we made, and that was pretty fun to me too. So yeah, I guess I was more of a outdoor girl is the bottom line. And I love to read. I read since I could learn to read, so that's just, I just don't even understand when people say, "Oh, I don't like to read." And I just think, "Oh my God, there's like worlds that are being missed by not reading." But that's just me.
Well, and they say
Yeah.
leaders are readers, you know,
Oh, they
if
do? Okay.
oh yeah,
I didn't know.
leaders are readers.
Yeah.
And when I would even interview people, I'd say, you know, hey, tell me about the last book you read. The presumption being that they have read a book. And
Already are reading. Yeah.
or are reading a book. And honestly,
Yeah.
when I'm hiring, if I find that they are not readers, it definitely decreases my interest in that particular person and what, you know, how much I value I think that they can add. Because if we're not reading, if we're not investing, now I understand we've got podcasts, we've got blogs, we've got
Yeah.
other sources of
Different
video
ways of taking in information.
of
Yeah.
taking in information, but especially before we had all of this, if you weren't reading, how were you expanding? You know, and that's how we
Agreed.
expanded as children as well. I was also a reader. What I also heard is
Yeah.
something interesting. So you talk about Chinese medicine, and in Chinese medicine, there are elements that they talk about. You want to
Yes.
name them off quickly?
Yes. Sure. Fire, earth, air, or metal, water, and wood.
And as a child,
Wood. Yeah. Go
you
ahead.
spent a lot of time in the dirt, in the sun, in the wind, right?
Yeah, and with playing on trees, we climbed
Playing
trees,
trees.
like literally everyone. That's such a good point, Leann. I never thought about it that way. I suppose the elements meant that much to me even then, and I didn't know it. Yeah.
And that's
And what's interesting,
often,
I want to say this last piece is that wood isn't typically an element in, like, you know, normal elements that, it's usually just fire, earth, air, and water.
mhm.
But wood is interesting because in Chinese medicine, it was observed, because everything in Chinese medicine was from observing nature, that trees were vital to life for two reasons. One, we can't live without wood. We can't live without the air or the oxygen that the trees produce for us and the exchange of carbon dioxide between us and trees. But we are also a tree of life. We're rooted, we're connected, and we blossom bounty, right? And we can't do that we cannot do any of that without the elements. So I think that's a very astute observation on behalf of the early observers of life and nature and Chinese
Yeah.
medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, I love when I often see that when I talk with people, you know, there is usually a connection to what we were doing when we were 8 or so,
Yeah,
and
good
what
call.
we really get called into and love to do. I mean, mine was teaching. I love to teach.
Okay.
And I had a really I was very interested in observing the adult world and how they would connect with other people, and that's what I do today.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if you
Well,
listen
it's
to
funny you
other
say that about
podcasts, you
teaching.
hear that.
I know. Real quick, I don't know how much time we have, but
No, we're good.
I would, when I was around 8, I would be in my bedroom, like on a rainy day, right? Like this would be the indoor play. My closet, that I would have a pointer. I don't even know what it was. Maybe it was a long ruler, one of those like sticks.
Yeah.
and I would teach my stuffed animals and dolls, whatever it was I was teaching, whatever it was I was learning in school, I must have been teaching. And because I just remember pointing onto the closet door as if that was my chalkboard, like my teacher did. Anyway,
Oh,
and I
very
do teach
fun.
today. So yeah, there it is. Your point is
And we
very,
are still teachers. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
fascinating. And we're happiest, I think, when we're still connecting with that child that we were. Because I
true.
think that
I
child
agree.
really pointed us in the direction of who we are and where we're meant to go. So fun, fun.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it says a lot about our soul has purpose, and it's going to
Absolutely.
assert its purpose as much as it can from the time we arrive till the time we leave.
Right.
So,
Well, thank you,
yeah,
Laurie. This has been a joy. We're going to,
my pleasure.
conclude the recording, but we still have some time to talk afterwards. Yay. So once
Okay,
again,
yay.
inviting anybody to come over to winwinwomen.tv, click on the green button, connect with us and join us before the show ends in a few. But we look forward to seeing you. And once again, thank you, Laurie. Make sure to connect with
Thank
her at
you.
Sacred Health, excuse me, Sacred Health Academy.com and pick up your free gift of the Kickstart Your Energy 5-day reset. And check out everything else that she offers. So this is Leann
Just to be
Lyon.
clear,
Thank you for joining me on this journey to unleash your joyful business potential. Remember, leadership is a voyage we take together. So keep shining and aligning with your purpose. Come on back every week and next week at 2 p.m. Pacific time, exclusively on winwinwomen.tv for our next inspiring episode. So until next time, this is Leann, your Chief Joy Officer, signing off. Keep leading with heart, and I'll catch you on the next wave of success. Farewell, and keep spreading the joy.